both to take a deep breath because I have just been finagling with that recorder and I'm feeling a little discombobulated. And so, if you will do me a favor and let us both just take a deep breath in, a deep breath out, just so that I can get centered and help you get centered and just get in our bodies. Just for a minute here, let's just. Okay, dear. This is an honor for you to share your life with me. I don't know how much you remember about the Enneagram, but it is a personality system, and it is based on motivation. The idea is if you know your motivation and the motivation of the people around you, it helps us all relax, and it helps us all understand that we're coming at this from different angles. So we have the triad of the heart, the triad of the mind, and the triad of the gut. What that means is we all have feelings, we all think thoughts, we all sense things, but we come into this world doing one more than the others. And if we know which one we do more of, it helps us know which direction to go. And then when we encounter people who do life differently than us, we relax because we know that they're in a different triad. So, what we are going to be doing is spending the next hour. I'm going to be asking you questions, and you're going to be telling me the best of your understanding the answer to these questions.
Good.
The only thing I ask is if you can speak up, because I'm not technologically savvy enough to make this thing loud, and we're having trouble hearing us.
All right.
So pretend that I'm on the other side of the room, and you're going to be answering my questions to me sitting over there.
All right.
All right?
Good.
Okay, the first question now is, what does success mean to you?
Oh, that is a question. Yeah. Success means to me to succeed in the roles that I'm choosing for my life. I have internal values that have a lot to do with my faith, and I just desire to be able to function with those values. Being myself. I don't know. Does that answer your question? Or is that just too?
Okay, what I heard you say is to succeed means within a certain value structure. First of all, your value structure has to be met. And after your value structure is met, for instance, let's say that you were in business and you were virtuous. Would that mean that you had succeeded automatically, or is there more to success than being virtuous?
There's more to success than being virtuous, yes.
Tell me about that.
All right. Let me just use the example of being a mother.
Okay.
Success to me would have been that my children would feel secure, that they would feel loved, and that they would be confident in who they were and be able to fulfill their dreams. Now that would be, that I would be able to facilitate that would be success to me.
Okay. All right. So how important is it for you that people recognize when you have succeeded?
When other people recognize? Not very much.
So if you succeeded, if you put a a lot of effort and time into something and you knew that you had succeeded.
Yeah,
For other people to recognize that would be nice, but not necessary.
that's correct.
What happens if people slow you down mid-task?
Well, I think at this stage in my life, it doesn't bother me that much.
Let's go back to your 20s.
My 20s, I was pretty focused and I wanted to finish what I was focused on. It was hard to be interrupted. Yeah.
So what did you feel when you got interrupted in your 20s?
I felt a lot of pressure because I knew that I was behind, and part of my ego had to do with getting certain things done, whether they were realistic or not. So I don't know that I was able to decide what was realistic and what wasn't. So I'd be probably very frustrated.
So would you say that you are goal-oriented?
I'm so different now that it's hard.
I need your 20s because
My
we're talking about
20s.
because we're talking about motivation and
Okay. No, I would not say that's what I would do.
okay.
Just, that would be something, would be part of me if I had something was important enough to me.
Okay.
But
It's okay. You're not doing anything wrong. Here's what I'm getting at. There are
Okay.
people who are people-oriented and
Mhm.
people who are goal-oriented.
I'm people-oriented,
Well,
definitely.
usually when people are goal-oriented, they're not frustrated when they are interrupted
I understand.
mid-task.
Mhm.
And so you have told me that you would have been frustrated, and you're telling me that you are people-oriented. And so we're trying to ferret that out.
Okay. If it were my children, I would not have been frustrated. It would be, I have to really add to that. If I had something to do and I had a time constraint, I might not have as much grace for people interrupting me, that's all.
Okay, that's fair
Does that
enough.
help?
It does. It certainly does. How do you feel about authority figures?
I used to be very concerned about authority figures. In my 20s, I was afraid of them and anxious to please them.
And can you give me an example?
In the presence of an authority figure, I would have discounted anything I had to say or to think, and would probably go along with things without really deciding if I should be doing that.
How sensitive are you to potential harm in your environment?
I don't think a lot about it.
So do you make decisions quickly or do you labor over them?
Probably pretty quickly.
What role does worry play in your life?
I think that worry was very, very important. It was just my response to anything I couldn't control, any unknown. So I learned early, as a believer, to work through it. I memorized scriptures and self-talk. That did bring down the anxiety level. But I had a lot of fear when I was younger.
You did. Okay. So the fear can be a result of a crazy environment. Some people have fear whether the environment is crazy or not. So what do you think? What might have been in your case?
Well, I think because of the environment in which I grew up, I never knew what the atmosphere was going to be like in our home.
Right?
And then in my first marriage, I recreated all of that same thing going on. And so I had fear of arriving home after having been gone, and fear of people coming in and out of the house and things like that. So those were situational. I don't think, maybe I've had anxiety my whole life. I think I remember that fear was a part of my life.
Uh-huh.
I think so.
Some people focus energy on the worst case scenario. Would you identify with that?
No.
How do you respond to conflict between you and another person?
I don't like it. I'm better at it now, but when I was younger, I avoided it.
And so what about conflict did you not like?
I think I was protective of my feelings, and I didn't want to do something to hurt somebody else. And so I don't know. It was kind of an unnamed fear because I just didn't want to have conflict. So I let people say and do whatever they wanted to say.
So would you say that you're someone who can easily see all points of view?
Probably. I try to, and often do, yeah.
And again, if you will go back to your 20s, because it's not unusual for all mature people to be very similar. So if you will, again, go back to your 20s, when you were in your 20s, when people disagreed, could you see both points of view?
Maybe not. No, maybe I'd have to say probably no.
Okay. How accessible are you to your energy?
How accessible am I to my energy?
I'm
Could
sorry,
you?
to your anger. I meant to say to your
Oh.
anger.
A lot of times it used to be when I was younger, I didn't know I was angry. I spent 2.5 years I went for marriage counseling by myself and wound up in therapy and found out that I had a lot of anger in me. I just didn't know about it. So now, I mean, that's something I've worked on, and I recognize that I do occasionally have it, and doesn't control my life.
So when you were angry and you didn't know it, how did it manifest itself? What was the anger like that you were not in touch with?
Well, I became very depressed and suicidal when I had my third child, So I can think that it was just that anger turned in because it was real.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know that I was angry.
So what is it like now, especially when you're in your 20s, for you to make a mistake?
Oh. It was the worst. It was the worst. I would condemn myself. I would think I was stupid, and I talked to myself like that.
All right. So, and how long would that last? How long would your recriminations of yourself last?
Probably when I got it right. I mean, once I
So you had to correct the mistake before you
had to
feel
learn
good
how
about
to,
it.
yes. And then the atmosphere I grew up in, the mistakes were as bad as anything you could do. We didn't know any different. So.
Some people have a strong inner critic. It's very vocal. What about you?
I did, yes, very much so.
And so this strong inner critic would continually tell you what you did and did not do right.
Oh, yes.
So at the end of the day, when you would come home and you would review the day, what would come up?
Oh, a lot of sorrow and repentance, and I have to do better. Please God, I got to do better tomorrow. That was before I was a believer.
Okay. So everything that went wrong during the day would come up, and everything that you did wrong would come up.
Yes.
And pretty much everything that went wrong was your fault.
Yeah. Because you're sweet.
What comes up for you when you think about following your desires?
I've always loved following my desires, but I was more confident when I was younger that I had a lot of skills, and I would try them. Taught me a lot. But as today, would you ask me that question again? Do I have a scattered brain?
Well, these are pretty nebulous questions, so feel comforted. There are people who are very impulsive. That means an impulse to them is a very good thing. And there are people who are not. And there are people who all they have to do is have a desire and they follow it. So we're trying to discern where you fall on this spectrum.
All right, well, with that explanation, I wouldn't say that I'm just what you mentioned. I wouldn't say that I do that, no. But there are times, I mean, I have grace for myself now, and, you know, I can make better choices in having fun. But no, I'm not. I fall more towards the middle, I think.
Okay. What are intense feelings like for you now?
What are they like?
Uh-huh.
What kind do I have, or what?
What's your response to intense
To
feelings?
Well, I still do not like being angry. That bothers me. I don't like that feeling. Good feelings I love. I love I have so much to be grateful for, and I like feeling that way. And when I have a bad feeling, I just have to deep breathe and figure out what I'm going to do about it. So, is that answering you at all?
So let's go back to your 20s.
20s.
And if you were told that you were ordinary or that you would have an ordinary life, what would your response be to that? What's your response then to the word ordinary?
Well, then ordinary would not have been what I was supposed to be, so I would feel very, very bad about that.
So people had ambitions for you,
Oh, yeah.
and their ambitions were that you would not be ordinary.
Oh, no, not in our family. Okay. But that's environmental.
Has anybody ever told you that you are too much or not enough? Has anybody ever told you that you are too intense?
That I'm too intense? I have a daughter that's really intense, and I don't think I am intense.
Okay.
I don't know, but I don't think so. Nobody's ever told me.
Okay.
Talk too much. I didn't hear that in my younger days.
But that's not too intense. How easily is it for you to know the needs of others without them telling you?
Easy.
So, have you ever worked so hard that you made yourself indispensable?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Big part of my life I did that. Because the way I saw things is I could see that what needed to be done. And I would look around and nobody seemed to be doing it or even seeing or caring about it. And so I always thought it was my business to make sure that it got done. So oftentimes I would make myself sick, stuff like that. Yes.
Getting things done.
Getting things.
How are you with being alone?
Good. I do. Like, there's so many wonderful things I love to do alone. I do like being with people. But I think there's a point where I feel like I've had enough.
So, talk to me about control now. What's control like for you?
For me, I think control is a safe place for me because as long as I could make everything the way it should be, and I had control of that, I felt good. And if I didn't, I felt very anxious. And I catch myself in my control issues now. Like right now, I have a room that's got a sewing machine set up in it, and a granddaughter who is excited to learn to sew, and the place is a mess. I have no control over that. I could have control over that, but I don't really. So I'm working with the, that anxiety of not being in control of one of the rooms of my house.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Are you a person of strong opinions?
Well, I used to think that I knew more than I do now. So,
Let's go back to opinions.
I know it's hard for me to answer because I never trusted my opinions.
Right.
So, my opinions were strong when they were the opinions of the people that raised me. So,
I understand. So, what are rules like for you?
like rule, I think that for a long time I didn't know how much I liked rules. I didn't know what to do without them. And again, I'm much more comfortable not having rules now, but that's been hard for me to really hard.
So, when you were young, what were rules like for you?
Well, you obeyed them. Didn't matter who gave them to you or set them up. And I was terrified to break the rules. So they were very influenced my life for sure.
When others ask something of you unexpectedly, how do you respond?
Okay, in my 20s, if they asked me and it was unexpected or expected, I would respond and do it.
Uh-huh.
Now that I know something about motivations,
Uh-huh.
it's not so true. I do think about it now and
Uh-huh.
process it. But there's always in me, maybe this is a little more honest, it's always in me that I should want to.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I understand. Is energy a big deal for you
To have it,
or not?
I like to have it when I need it.
Yeah.
But I don't think about that much.
Okay. There is a group of people who do, and this is what we're asking, so that we can find out if you're one of those people who are aware of energy more than others.
I don't think so.
Okay. Would you describe yourself as an optimist or a pessimist?
Optimist for sure.
When you start a project, do you usually complete it?
I'm not comfortable until I do finish it, but I can have a long time in between with some projects before I do. So, I don't know.
Is it people who get in the way, or is it you who get in the way?
Well, life gets in the way.
Life gets in the way.
Yeah, the shoulds. But if it's something I really love, when I was painting,
Uh-huh.
I mean, you could hardly pull me away. If I didn't have crying children, I probably would have done it 24 hours. So I think maybe it's how much it means to me.
Uh-huh. So if something means something to you, then you find that you can easily complete it. But if it's imposed upon you as a should, then sometimes it doesn't happen.
True.
Is that
Pretty much, yeah.
okay? So now let me ask you this. Is it easy for you to hold your own? Just hold your own. In other words, when you're with people, can you be Nell, even though there's other people around, maybe pulling you to be different?
Well, now,
In your 20s, could you hold your own?
I don't think so, no.
Do you know where you get your energy from? Do you get it from yourself or do you get it from other people?
I think I get it from myself.
So there are people who when they start going downhill, have to be with people in order to get their energy. And there's other people who inevitably, their energy starts going down when they have been with people and they have to get it from themselves. Do you know which camp you fall into?
Probably the latter.
So you gather energy when you
Yeah.
are by yourself.
This is a little hard for me to separate because
Exactly.
I have certain people that I am with and I come away and I'm just very energized.
Right, exactly.
But if I have too much of that input,
Yes.
then I need to go home and just kind of process and
Yes. Um, How easily do you trust people?
I trust people, but I mean, I'm not suspicious of people unless I get a bad feeling about them when I meet them. You know, I mean, if my radar goes up, but for the most part, I trust a person at face value until I find out otherwise.
Can you tell me what time it is?
Sure can. It is just a little after 10:03.
Okay. It's about time that we wrap this up then.
All right.
And I'll tell you what I'm thinking.
Okay.
So there's the three triads: the feeling, the thinking, and the gut. There's a possibility now that you are somewhere between the ones and the twos, and let me go around and tell you why.
Okay.
I don't think you're in the 3-4 quadrant because these are, even though you're very responsible, you're not ambitious to the degree that it means a whole lot to you. And the threes are an ambitious lot, and they will become like their environment for the purpose of succeeding, for the purpose of getting kudos. And I don't see that dynamic in you. I know that you enjoy success and you like an appropriate amount of recognition, but it doesn't seem to be a driving point for you. The fours are people who are very, very, very intense feelings to one degree or another, and there's a factor they literally have to deal with. And you don't have that dynamic in your life. Your feelings are very much there, but they're not so large that you have to wrestle with them. You're not wrestling them down. 5, 6, and 7s, the 5s again, energy is just a huge thing in their life. It becomes evident sooner or later that they have to make decisions based upon energy. And they find a great deal of solace in not being around people and in thinking and in pondering and even though you do those things, they are not they're not something that is a factor again. The 6 and the 7s, the 6s you could be, they are worriers, but in your life I'm thinking that the fact that your home of origin was so unpredictable that it would cause anybody to become a worrier, so to speak. A sane person would have to be concerned. But I don't see, again, that doesn't seem to be there inside of you. It's the responsibility that comes out of you. sevens, you can hardly rein those people in. They are just so play-oriented or event-oriented. They avoid life by doing, and I don't see that in you either. The eights are very much empower and control people. They're in charge, and you will, they're very easy to spot, the eights are. 9, 1s, and 2s, again, I had to ferret out whether the 9, 1, or 2, the 9s are very easygoing. And I think, now I think you're easygoing by enculturation. I think you were, in other words, I sense in Nell someone who has a lot of strength but holds it back. I think that if you had not been enculturated, you would, you're much more of a force to be reckoned with than you let on. So that's why I don't think you're naturally a 9. Nines really like getting along. They really like meshing. And I think that, I think now, and you'll have to explore the 9, 1s, and 2s, but I think that you're either will land on 1 with a 2 wing, or you might be a 2 with a 1 wing. But I think that I think responsibility and your inner voice is very strong. I think shoulds are very strong in your life. And that I think that initially, there was a lot of energy around what you should do and recriminations from that and concern over that. And I think the giving part, you gave and gave and gave like the 2s give, but I think it was because of the should element.
Might be.
And I think givers who are true 2s are giving because of all the feedback they get from the 2. They get a lot of, they have to give to get. And I think that you were giving because you should give. But you'll have to ferret that out yourself. And so that is my thoughts about our time together. So, thank you, dear.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.